I will go over students' work based on the order they arrived tonight. Everything here makes sense. You've got a good hierarchy for your animation. I like the depth and the effects, the sound, the art style's consistent. Nice job. Yes, this looks like it's ready for the final render. And there's two ways you can render. You can open up Media Encoder. I launched Media Encoder so it'll open in the background, but another way of getting to it. So I've got the sequence selected that I want to render. Make sure your render bars, these blue things at the end, are covering all the parts that you want rendered. And finally, you just go Composition, add to Media Encoder, and then you wait for it to load up here in Media Encoder. So you keep an eye out for the text to appear here. And there you see it opened up right there. When you render, if you're using Media Encoder, so Media Encoder might not work on everyone's computer, but if you're using it, you want H.264, high bitrate, and then you click here to name your render and where it's going to go. Put your initials in it just so that, I know whose it is, and, choose the folder it's going to, hit save, and then lastly, you click this green play button up here, and it renders out. Based upon how complex your animation is, will determine how long it takes for the file to render. But this should go pretty quick because my computer is fairly fast. So it's saying right here I've got about 18 seconds left. I figured I'd cover rendering right off the top just so everyone is familiar with it and knows how to do it. So this is the first way of doing it, and then I'll show you the second way once this is done. Again, make sure you're at 1920 by 1080. See that you have everything set up properly. Like this audio symbol right here for his sound, if that was clicked off, the audio would not play or render. So make sure you've got everything visible that you want seen or heard. And what we're seeing right here is that final light effect is what's taking the most amount of time. Once it's done, just click there and delete it just so that your queue is empty. I'm going to hit save. You should always save before you render. All right, so here's the other way of doing it. If you go Composition, add to Render Queue. This is the After Effects render queue. It will always work, but it'll produce larger files. And you've got more setting up to do. So you're going to click on Lossless, right over here. And you're going to change the format to QuickTime. RGB is fine. Format options, I would just stick with animation off the top. And you could change the quality, but you can't really change the quality when you're doing animation. So click OK. Everything else looks good. You hit OK again. And lastly, you click here to name it and where it's going to go. Hit save when you have the right location. And finally, you hit the render button. And it will render out the same as the other one. The reason this is going fast is because I already cached this when I rendered it the last time. That's why it's going this quickly, and that's why I had the time to show you both. You hear the little chime, you know you're done. Click here, hit backspace to delete it, close your queue, and you're all done. So yeah, this is looking very nice. Good job. I don't have any more input, other than it might look a little better if it were centered, but that's your call as the designer. And nice work. I like the highlights and the detail and the consistency of all the artwork to it. So it's looking very sharp, Peter. I just purged the disk cache just to speed things up, make it go a little quicker. All right, so I'm going to play this at normal speed. Watching it the first time, it gave me some ideas. I just wanted to play through once. Okay, so I talked before about eye tracing and, trying to keep the viewer's eye in one spot. I still think the clock would look better coming out the bottom, but that's your call. Now, notice when you fade these two out together as different layers, you're getting this overlap happen. And the reason that's doing it is because you've got two different pieces of artwork that you're trying to render together. Let me see where they're at. I'll show you the fast fix for that. But if you have something like this in your reel, with that happening, people will call you out on it. Here's the fast fix for it. So let me hit U. Go to your fade keyframe right here. This is where the fade starts. All right. I'm deleting just the fade for the opacity. I'm showing you something real quick. So if you've got both layers selected, you right click and you pre-compose them into one layer. And click here to move all attributes into a new composition. So this is going to be treated as one piece of artwork. So now, if I hit the T key right here, and I go forward to where you wanted the fade out to happen, and I fade it out, now it fades out as one piece of artwork. That's the proper way of doing it, so you don't have that little overlap happening. So that's the first fix for this. Secondly, again, with eye tracing, you've got all these circular shapes, but you keep having the viewer's eye leave that area. Like, this could emerge possibly from this cloud that happens and it moving off, showing that, just to keep the viewer's eye there. That's just my 2 cents. Also, it looks like there's a stroke around it. And again, this is just me, trying to help push your work. It's not me being overly critical of anyone. It's the whole point of, here we go, Planet. Yeah, see, there's no stroke. That's weird. Why are we getting that stroke look? Right there. Is there like a drop shadow on it? Let's find out. Maybe it's happening from the globe. But also, watch the gradient. Let's see, where's the gradient? Are you animating the gradient? Yeah, you're adding the gradient. So if you just change the start point, because right here, it's not hitting the edge. See right there, you get a little bit more of a spherical look, and you still have that effect happening that you wanted. That's looking really nice, the glow. I like your colors. And lastly, what I saw when I was watching this for the first time tonight, I like how you took my advice here. Now, here's the fast way to make this pop, and not only that, but add depth. If we throw a drop shadow on that little spaceship, let's see if I can find it. Here it is, ellipse, circle, ellipse. Okay, so it's these two pieces. So if I right click and I pre-compose these, I'll call it spaceship. I move all attributes into new comp. Let's see where to go. Okay, let's undo that. There it is right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a drop shadow to each of these. And I'll use the same one. So it should be right click, layer styles, drop shadow. Zoom in. See, now we're starting to see it more easily. That drop shadow. Not only does it help it stand out, it's adding depth. You can adjust your drop shadow here. You can make it stronger. You could change the height. You could even animate the height to give the illusion that it's going up higher. Anything with the keyframe, anything with the stopwatch can be animated. The spread, you can animate all these things, as well as the size to soften it. See the difference that drop shadow does? And also, let's just for the fun of it, let's do the distance. Let's make it look like it's going up even higher. See? Just showing you a couple little things to help push this. But that drop shadow really helps. And let's see if I can just go Then go to my second one, right click layer styles, drop shadow, select let's try paste. See, now it's going over top of that, so we don't want that. So I'm going to undo that. Just having on the circle there is pretty good, but it's coming along very nicely. Just as little suggestions, like if the one thing that is the most dire is this drop shadow to help the spaceship stand apart from your logo and add a little bit of depth to it as well, but very nice. It's coming along nicely. You showed a lot of understanding of particles, custom particles. I like your resting logo. Got some interesting negative space. This is very clever. I like that, so looking very good. Again, good work there. I like how you added the depth and distressed that a little bit. Very nice. Did you put drop shadows on it as well? That's interesting. So, okay, and you took the route of seeing the canvas through the paint. So that was one of two ways you could have gone. I like the highlights there. I like the shadows, the depth. The only thing I could think of for pushing this would be right here. That part is a little slow. That part takes almost 2 seconds. You could just shift your keyframes along and pick that up if you wanted to. That's just a matter of sliding your keyframes down like a second or so that it happens sooner. And some sound effects would be nice, but this is a really sharp job. Also, you might want to round that off. That there's no questions as well. Yeah, like I said, it's looking sharp. The only thing that is a must is that little drop shadow on the circle, just that it pops up off the logo. Yeah, so I'm going to show everyone what that would look like with this file right here, moving those keyframes. So say it ends right here. So I'm going to hit the U key to see my keyframes. Oh, this layer was locked. That's what's going on. All right. Okay, so I just marquee dragged the end keyframes. Actually, it's right here. I don't even need these selected, so I'm going to deselect these. And if I want that to happen faster, I just slide them down, and it's going to keep all of the animation. So let's play it from here. So that helps speed it up. Now let's see, there's the pictures. And it looks like the timing for pictures is a little off. That's probably for me moving things around, but to show you the fast way of moving keyframes. Now I just find where it says pictures, that layer, and I just slide that so it's not here. I'm hitting the U key to hide all the unnecessary layers. Oh, you know what I bet it was? I bet it was because one of the layers was locked and I didn't unlock it. Oh, okay. All right, here's what it is. This layer is starting too late. That's all it was. I must have just needed to drag it. See? Now it's lining up. That's what it was. Because you've got an alpha mat, so I just had to drag out the start point of the layer that was being matted, like such. Oh, hey, thanks, Rich. Great seeing you tonight. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, so, like I said, this is looking great. That's just one way to speed up the motion and have it move a little closer. And I was showing you what happens with alpha mats. Just make sure the layer that's being revealed is where you want it, because I just had to slide that in point a little bit on down, like such. Just looking great. So like I said, maybe just add some sound effects, but great job. I'm liking that a lot. Okay, so we've already got this here, and if we update the artwork, it'll automatically replace itself in After Effects. All right, it's the brush handle. The brush handle is what has the keyframes, I imagine. I hit the U key. Yep, there they are. Okay, so let's move this right here to where we see that it needs some more stuff. So first thing I'm going to try is I right-clicked, create shapes from vector, and that's going to lose your gradient, so I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm just going to open it in Illustrator, and I'll show you how to do it there. Discard CMYK. Yeah, when you're doing After Effects, you always want RGB, so if you ever need to change that, that is up here at File, Document Color Mode, RGB. Okay, this is rounded. All right, so that's happening in After Effects. That's a bounding box. So there is a bounding box around it. See right here? This is the bounding box. Okay, I got it. Here's what it is. I figured it out. We're going to do the Socratic method to see if anyone else can figure it out. All right, you ready? Here is Julia's work file, okay? Bear in mind, this checkerboard is the alpha, and what After Effects is taking in is the solids inside of it. So take a look. What I believe is happening, does anyone have a guess? Okay, here's what my theory is. This brush handle, let me unlock these. It's going off the board. Yep. Exactly, very good, Rich. This is getting cropped off right there. So if I just took this, let me hit copy, and I'm going to try something fast. So I'm going to go new, and I'm going to do HDTV, and I'm going to paste it. Yes, that should be it right there. I'll call this brush 2, and I'll save it to my desktop. And then I'll import that. You can go File, Import File, or just click on the empty space there. I'm going to retain my layer sizes. Open up here. And there's your rounded off brush. So, check this out. I'm going to twirl down here. Let's see, transform, no. We only want this part. So I can just hide that on this one. Save it. And let's see what happens in After Effects. There we go. And I could just put this into whichever file right here. So if that's there, just copy it, paste it in there, and then just line it up, size it back up, whatever you did here. Like, actually, let's try this. So I'm going to go to where it's fully on the screen. I'm trying to find the fastest way for you to do this. Right here. Okay. The whole thing's on the screen. So let's rotate this a little. I'm going to try and line it up and then parent it to the brush so that you don't have to do any extra work. So let's pretend this is perfect, okay? Let's cheat, put it underneath it. Now we can tell if it's the right size. Just watch out for that right there. You're going to want to make sure it's lined up perfectly and rotated perfectly. But once you have it matched up perfectly, just parent this to the first brush. And look at that. It moves perfectly with it, and no one's the wiser. So just, do what I did. Put that brush in there. Actually, you know what? It's coming along nicely, everyone. Like I said, just these little tweaks and touches are what's going to help you, when you're looking for a job in the field. You want your work to stand above, and you don't ever want to have any excuses in your reel. Now, it looks like you might be missing some of your custom particles, I'm assuming. Do you have any suggestions for a sound for my animation? Yeah, no problem. I would look up free stock sound effects. Let's see what that would sound like. Like that. or a longer one, you know, maybe something along those lines. Maybe even a liquidy sound like a blop or like a drip. But, you know, search around. Maybe a cross between a brush stroke sound and a liquid type sound might do it. Also remember, everybody, if you render out and you don't have a background here, like I turned off the opacity, the alpha. If you were to just render this, you wouldn't see that foot. It's going to render this black. So always watch that. If you have any questions about what your render is going to look like, turn off the alpha and then, you know, realize, oh, I might need to put a solid behind there. Okay, now I covered this before in the previous, like not last week, but the week before that with that lab. But there's little things you could do to help sell this motion. And it looks like you're not in a 16:9, but if you're going to do like the comic book setup, then this makes sense. So you got your twigs. Oh, here it is, leg. I'm sorry. All right. Let me try something. I'm going to right click and create shapes from vector. And see what we got going on now. So now we got a bunch of shapes. Remember, this is all about follow through and overlapping action and animation hierarchy. So this is the pant leg. I hit enter to name it. And I'm just hitting the eyeball icon to find out what's what. I don't even know what this is. So I'm just going to hide that. There's the shoe. And maybe this is the pant cuff. Yep. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now we've got something to work with here. Watch this difference. So here's the shoe. I'm going to twirl down here. If these were their own layers, you'd be able to get to the stuff faster. But remember your 4 pillars of motion design: position, scale, rotation, and opacity. Your anchor point is off, but it looks like it's right there, so that might be okay. So that's all under the transform for each one of these shapes. So if I go and I want to start rotating from here, and let's say the foot is up like that, and then it's going to press downward once it steps into it, and then there's a little bit of overshoot, then back to 0. So you've got the heel, like you're stepping down, there's the gravity of the weight, and then the foot righting itself. I just select all these with a marquee drag, or you can click the word rotation to get them all. Right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease to ease that motion out a little bit. With the spacebar, see the difference there? There's more of an impact with that. Now the pant leg before I showed you, speaking of follow through and overlapping motion, with the gravity of this, there should be some give. So the pant leg and the cuff should slide down a little bit at the impact, like right about here. So if I went and let's hide that, and we're going to say pant cuff and the pant leg. So I'm going to transform that, and that's going to be position for both of these. And we'll go forward a little bit to right there, and I'm going to slide it down a little. And that's my layer stack that's happening right there. So let's get the shoe and put it behind the pant leg to fix that. See, now you got a little bit of impact. And then when the shoe comes up, we can just raise the pant leg back up. Now, if I want to stay down for a few frames, right here, I just click this diamond and it copies whatever is before it. So there's no change between these frames. I do the same thing for here. Click the diamond, go a few frames, and I can just send them back up a little bit. It's those little things. See the difference? Watch the pant leg. Things like that help sell the motion. Yeah, that's how you get the impact. The follow through and the overlapping action. Those would move after the legs stop moving because they're separate from it, like they'd be sliding, and you'd always use your keyframes for smoother motion. Little things like that are what will make this pop. And sound effects as well. Now, before you were talking about the bear zooming in, I showed you how to animate the bear head. It's weird that the trees are moving around in your particle system. Let's take a look at that. Jet sideways. Your resistance is up all the way. Oh, we're only using this part anyway. So if you're only using that, that's fine. But that is very odd that they're doing that. Another way to fix that would probably be velocity. Adjusting that. Also the extra, saying that to 0 might help. See, now they're not shooting around sideways, because I've never seen a tree look like it was dodging a tackle in football. So that helps. It was just zeroing out your velocity and the extra angle. Yeah. So it's just little things like that. Like I said, if you watch the full lecture on particles, you'd see these things. But you know, that's what lab time's for. Also, is just finding the fast way of fixing some of these issues. And you know, I already showed you with the bear, like how to animate the head and whatnot. You know, breaking down the jaws, overshoot, anticipation. Just gonna do a quick recap on that. So I'm gonna pretend this is the bear head at the top, like that, and this will be the bottom jaw, like that. Okay, fine. And I'm going to want the anchor point moving with the pan behind tool, right where it would be where the jaw moves. And do the same thing for here. Now, I'm going to name these so I know it's what. This is the bottom jaw. And then this one would be the top. And again, like I said, I use simple shapes very quickly, so that we could spend more time on the concept rather than everybody watching me draw something real pretty. Okay, now, with the bear roaring, anticipation is setting the viewer up for that motion. The roar, the jaw opens up. Anticipation, you go in the opposite direction. So let's say we'll move that to about here. Okay, so I'll move my playhead a little bit, and I'll set up my keyframe. Anticipation, we go a few frames, and since I want the jaw to open wide, the anticipation is the jaw's going to close a bit first. So let me move that down a little bit. So it's going to close a little bit to take the viewer's eye there. We can maybe keep it for like a moment, so I'm going to add an extra frame there. And then it opens up wide. So the bottom would go down and the top would go up. And you could also use that as a little bit of overshoot. So going past the point you want. Go a little bit more. And then a little bit more here. And then back down. So that's your overshoot. So we've got overshoot and anticipation happening right now. I'm going to ease all that. And we'll see what that looks like. See? So once you have that happening, we could then do having both of these move. So let's try a fast, easy fix. So we've got that motion happening right about here. And I'm going to say, let's try and have the head tilt back. So I'm going to split this layer, Command-Shift-D, or Edit, Split Layer. See, now this one ends here, and these start here. So I'm going to hit U to hide my keyframes, and you go saying, well, why did you do that? If I take, let me put the top jaw on top. If I take the bottom jaw now, and I parent it to the top, and I rotate the top, that keyframe here, go forward a little bit. Now I can make it look like the head is tilting back, while also making the bottom jaw look like it's opening up even more. Like that. Just to give it a little bit more extra push. See? Like that. And then you could add things, like I said, the ears. We'll pretend that's the ear. And I'll name it. Parent the ear to the head. So now the ear stays with the head. And you can have the ear twitch a little bit. But remember, before you hit your keyframes and your stopwatches, you always set your anchor point. Here's the anchor point for it. I want it where it joins the head, right there. So if I want the ear to twitch a little, I set my anchor point. I can have it twitch a little with some mild overshoot to give it a little bit more of a natural look, and I'll just ease those. Like that. Yes, Command-Shift-D or split layer. And, lastly, the eye of the bear. If we had a path that we draw, you always want to use a path because you can animate the path shape, which I'll show you in a sec. I'm going to turn off the stroke by clicking the word stroke. There we go. So that's going to be the eye. And again, obviously your drawing would be a lot nicer than this. We're just speed animating tonight, going over what we've learned. So we can say once the mouth is open, we could have the eye condensed down, like squint. So we'll have it open up and then shrink down. So we'll pretend this is where we want it. And remember to animate, you go to your path. So it's your shape that you drew. It has to be a shape drawn with the pen tool. Content shape, here's your path. Click on there. We'll go forward a little bit. I'll click again. Now I can start moving my path points as well as the Bezier curve handles to animate those over time. Like that. And you know what? There's one thing I forgot to do that no one called me out on. I've got to parent this to the top jaw. Like that. So it moves with it. And there you see the eye changing its shape. And then if we wanted to squint down right about here, I just change the shape of it. To go with that roar. And like such. Paths are more effective for animation. Yes and no. Because like I said, yes, parenting connects everything together. So I've got a square, and I'll put a circle on another layer. And I'll name these. Okay, if I parent the oval to the square using my pick whip, if I rotate, they both rotate together, but I can also now individually rotate the oval. This is the parent, this is the child. whatever I do to the parent happens to the child, but I also have the flexibility of doing special motion on top of that to the child object. So it's a good way of getting things to stay together, but also move realistically, and also lower the amount of keyframes you have to do. And you know what? While we got some time, I'm going to do a rounded rectangle. Okay, now let's pretend we're doing a character. The arm moves. I'm holding down Command or Control to snap it to the top middle. So this is the upper arm. I'm going to duplicate it by hitting Command D. I really should have called this shoulder, but you know, live and learn. So my forearm, I'm going to move this down, and I can rotate it a little bit. And then now I see where it is. These should really, I should have rounded joins, but you know, I'm just showing you something simple here. And then I'll duplicate this one more time. No, I'm not going to duplicate another time. So if I parent the forearm to the shoulder, when I move my shoulder, the forearm's going to go with it. So I could do this, move forward a little bit, but then carry through that motion with my forearm. Whatever is furthest away ends up moving last, like the motion carries through. So I can go forward a little bit, and let's do rotation. I'll send this back a little bit. So once this stops, I'm going to carry through that rotation a little bit past that for some follow through and overlapping action. And that's just an example of that animation principle. The shoulder is the parent, the forearm is the child. When I rotate the shoulder, the forearm goes with it, but I could still get extra motion off of that with the child. And you know what? I'm just going to quickly do a fast Mickey Mouse hand here. Like that. And I'm obviously going to parent the hand to the forearm. And I can rotate that back a little bit more. Oops. I did not move my anchor point. That's what happens when you brush. Okay, so move my hand back a little bit. And then the hand is the furthest part of the body, so that would end up moving last with our follow through and overlapping action. Like such. So everyone's work's coming along nicely. I'm going to send a Zoom link for next week for the final crit of homework 1. If you have any questions or concerns, make sure you email me. And you can put your files in Google Drive for me to look at, and have your rendered file ready for presentation. So if lab time is 6:30, I want everyone's final renders in Google Drive by 6 p.m. next Wednesday, and we'll have our live crit on Zoom. I'll send out the link to everybody then. So, yep, no problem at all. I hope everyone has a great evening. And just remember, it's these little things like follow through and overlapping action, or anticipation, overshoot, easy easing. These are the things that change it from boring to interesting and you keep pushing it, you can get to extraordinary. So it's just those little changes over time, little by little, and next thing you know, you made a big difference. And don't forget, you can animate your paths of your drawn shape objects. You can move both the path points as well as the Bezier curve handles. Yeah, no problem at all. Did you want me to render mine, or did you save my render? I will save your render, but I want you to go through the process of rendering it. Remember, I put rendering at the very beginning, so take a look, and then this way you'll see what your computer is capable of, and if you run across any problems, so you can, know in advance for the final assignment and work around that. If there's no other questions, hope everyone has a great evening. And, I like that troubleshooting, like with the paintbrush art file was off the clipboard in Illustrator, and that's what caused it to be clipped in After Effects. Just little things like that sometimes there's a fast fix for it, and sometimes there isn't. All right, well, have a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing everyone in the crit on Wednesday of next week. You do not need to have your webcams on. It'll slow down the stream, so we'll just do audio only, and I'll share my desktop. We'll go over everyone's audio. Try and use royalty-free, copyright-free music if you're going to be doing that, and try and find royalty-free, copyright-free sound effects when and where you can, and reach out to me if you have any questions. Enjoy the rest of your evening and have a great weekend.